Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me on this webinar today. Ricky is my name. I'm a digital business advisor at Business Station. And today what we're going to do is talk about WordPress and why WordPress is a good choice for your business website or for your online store. And we'll talk about a range of things, including we'll just start off by talking about what WordPress is. So you have to keep in mind some people are going to be at different levels here. So, I'll just talk about WordPress.org versus .com and etc. What you can use it for, what you need to get started and to be successful. Some of the themes and page builders that you can use, as well as the plugins, and we'll talk about plugins in a bit more detail, using it for e-commerce, how to promote your site, and how to do SEO, search engine optimization. Now, we only have an hour, so there's a fair bit to get through. So I think I might just kick off the webinar now. Now, if you have any questions, just for those that are online anyway and not watching a recording, please just throw in a question into the chat at any time. If you want some more detail or something I'm not covering here, please just feel free to ask away. Okay, so WordPress is owned by this organization, Automattic. It's a pretty cool name and a pretty cool organization. It's a little bit like Meta owns Facebook, Automattic own WordPress. And their primary flagship product, if you like, in an odd sort of way, is WordPress.com. And that's a hosted sort of blogging platform. You can use it for free if you're willing to have ads on the platform. Fairly limited in its functionality, in my opinion. And the other platform is WordPress.org, or the open source version of WordPress, where you can use it for free, but you need to host it on a website hosting platform somewhere. So it's free to use, but not necessarily free. I just noticed I used free to use a couple of times there. Now, WordPress.org is a not-for-profit foundation, so that's quite unusual as well. And like I said before, it's open source, so anyone can develop themes or plugins or functionality for WordPress websites, and that's its strength. It's also potentially one of its weaknesses, and we'll talk about that as well, but really that's its strength. WordPress is totally flexible in what you can do with it. So that's the two sides of WordPress. Today, we're primarily talking about the open source WordPress.org platform, the self-hosted platform. And if you've never been there, it might be worthwhile visiting the WordPress.org website. It's quite a bit of information on there, and it tells you a little bit about what it does and some of the plugins that are available, some of the themes that are available. Now, if you have a WordPress website, you don't necessarily ever have to go here. It's because you can do a lot of these things from the website itself, from your website, from the back end. So one of the great things about WordPress is the fact that it's globally available. If you need a developer, there's likely someone, I'm not talking about how good they are, but there's probably someone that knows a little bit about WordPress in almost every town in the world. I might be exaggerating a little bit there, but if you compare that to any other platform, it's just, it doesn't compare. So there's always a community or someone that can help you out somewhere in the world. And in your local town, there's probably a local WordPress, meetup or some sort of community there as well. So it might be worthwhile just visiting that just to see. As you can see, you can learn from the website, from this particular site. There's the themes available, plugins. All the ones that would be mentioned on here in terms of plugins and themes are free. They might have a premium version, but they're all free. If you want to find premium themes or premium plugins, you'll need to go to another site like Theme Forest, for example. And we'll talk a bit about that shortly. Okay, so that's what WordPress is. That's what we were talking about anyway. And what can you use it for? Well, it's used for almost every type of website, but particularly used for business type websites, often used for e-commerce websites. So it has a big chunk of the market in terms of both of those platforms. Blogs, a lot of blogs are often WordPress. Educational websites, event websites, a lot of hospitality and tourism, real estate listings or real estate websites, but also any website that lists things. So it could be cars, houses, businesses in a directory type format. Any sort of marketplace, WordPress is ideal for starting a marketplace. So that's where you might have multiple vendors within a single site selling different or similar products. It's also very flexible in terms of setting up membership sites as well, and often used for industrial websites, rather than say some of the other platforms that are out there. So let's just look at some stats. So it powers 41% of the top 1 million websites. So nearly half of the top million websites overall, and 28% of the top 1 million e-commerce websites. That's quite a big, well, it is the majority, it is the lion's share of that particular marketplace. Shopify does come in quite a close second and growing rapidly. But if you put that into comparison to, say, if you compare how many sites are being developed each day, there's over 500 WordPress websites being developed each day compared to much smaller numbers on the other platforms. And some of the world's largest organizations use WordPress. So it's not just for small websites, it's for any size website, and potentially, infinitely scalable, I guess, to a degree. It's what's called a content management system. Sometimes people will refer to a CMS, and a content management system simply means that it can manage different types of content. So it could be, and a content in this case could be a product, could be an event, events, it could be images, could be video, it could be text-based content, a range of different content. And you can make custom type of content too, such as, say, a product, which is a type of custom content. So it's an ideal platform for managing multiple types of content. Okay, so what do you need to use WordPress? The first thing, of course, well, you don't strictly need a domain. You can use a temporary domain that the web host provider provides you, so you can start building the site. But at the end of the day, you do need a domain if you want to promote your brand and look professional. So you can go to a domain registrar and register your domain there. And I tell people or advise people to try and keep the domain registrar separate from their hosting provider, so you can ideally move that hosting provider if you need to and you're not locked in. But yeah, so register your domain, .com.au domain or a .com or whatever domain you think is appropriate. Web hosting, you need to host your WordPress website somewhere, so you find a good quality web hosting organization. I'm not necessarily recommending anyone here. This is just a screenshot of one that I'll talk about later. So web hosting, and that's very, very important. You don't want to go for necessarily the cheapest web hosting. You want to find one that offers the best return on your investment in terms of, what they offer, in terms of what they do every month for you versus what you're paying, and the return in terms of performance as well. The web hosting, you need to, unlike other platforms, even though it's also important on other platforms, you need to have a much stronger focus on security on WordPress. And that's just because of the fact that it is open source, different things being developed by different people all around the world. You've got to keep that updated. You've also got to, because it's hosted on a web hosting platform as well, potentially giving different people access to your website. All of these factors just require you to ensure that your site is secure. And that starts with the Ssl certificate, the HTTPS, making sure you've got an Ssl certificate installed, but also strong passwords. You use two-factor authentication for your admins, and and a range of other things, such as capture on your forms and things like that. Backups and updates. So I just mentioned updates. Updates is where you need to keep your version of WordPress and your plugins and your themes up to date. This is very, very important, and it's not necessarily something you need to worry about on other platforms, but you need to on WordPress, because that's how security holes are basically filled. So they'll identify a security exposure, they'll fix that and release a new version of whatever that plugin or theme, or even the core of WordPress. So you need to keep them updated so you keep your site secure and working properly, because they all need to work together. You then need to choose a theme, because WordPress is a theme-based platform. So what sort of theme or template are you going to use? And ideally, I recommend for people that are just starting to use a page builder. So WordPress has its own page builder, or you have different page builders such as Elementor for themes like Astra, the one I'm showing you here, or Divi have their own page builder for the Divi theme. So these are just drag and drop style builders for different parts of your website, just to make it easy to manage. And like I said, there's a few different ones. There's Beaver Builder, Elementor, Divi, and we can talk about those briefly. And then you need plugins. Well, you don't necessarily need plugins, but in most cases you are going to need some type of plugin to enhance the functionality. And this is really one of the strengths of WordPress. It's just so easy to add additional functionality. And in a lot of cases, not always, but in a lot of cases, it's free to do that through the plugins menu on your dashboard. So whether you need forms or security or caching or whatever the functionality you need, you can eCommerce, you can add that from this dashboard. Rule of thumb, you need to check that a lot of 5 stars and a lot of installations. So just looking at that one there, you can see it's 4,000 5-star ratings and 2 million installations. You know that's going to be pretty well. If you don't know this, when you're on a web hosting platform, most of them will offer a one-click installation of WordPress. So it's very easy to set up WordPress on a web hosting platform. But some things you just need to take into account. So, you know, there's different types of hosting. There's shared hosting, which is the most common for small sites, where you're sharing a server with other websites, and that's going to be your cheapest option. There's dedicated servers or virtual private servers, which is one in between, I guess. Then there's dedicated, and the more recent development would be cloud-based hosting. Now, you know, you want to look into what's best for you and in terms of your budget and your requirements, but you want to go for as higher performing as you can within your budgetary constraints. And this is where, you know, you need to compare the different hosting platforms. Performance becomes quite important, and what type of server you're using. So you might start with shared, but that might just be like a starting point where you then grow. Even cloud hosting is probably a good starting point now. It's probably a step up from shared, but not quite virtual private server. So it's a good starting point, and just a little bit different style of managing that versus some of the other platforms. But I won't go into that detail now. You want to really identify, so really what performance do they offer, what platforms do they offer, and then what services do they offer? Do they do backups for you? Do they do WordPress updates for you? All these sorts of things that you'll otherwise have to be doing yourself. So look into that as well. Where the server's located. Now, this isn't super critical, but if I'll give you a worst case scenario, your server's located in Australia, your customers are all in Eastern Europe, they are going to experience a lag there just because of the pure distance. So just keep that in mind. That's why, you know, US hosting is often, if you're looking for a global audience, is a good option. If your audience is purely in Australia, then maybe look at a hosting option in Australia as well. So yeah, just consider that. But having said that, if your customers are in Australia and your server's in the US, they're not going to really notice any difference, really. It's just about whether you think, if all your customers are in Australia, and whether you think it's appropriate to support an Australian hosting company. which, you know, it obviously is, but, you know, there's swings and roundabouts, I guess. And then the other thing is your email. So if you're just new to this, you've registered your domain, what are you going to do about email on that domain? So you need someone to host your email. You know, I often, you know, would recommend just getting that done when you register your domain, just set up some email as part of that. And, but, you know, just something to keep in mind that you do need to host your email somewhere as well. You could use Google Workspace to do that as well. So that's another option for you. Zoho, I think a few of them do that. Or GoDaddy, for example, will host your email. A lot of the registrars will do that. Okay. So that's what you need in terms of WordPress hosting, what you need to take into account. So I'm just going to, this is Venture IP. They're an Australian organization. And just very, very quickly, I'm going to show you this. But they do talk about some of the things they do. So if you go to the pricing, which we'll get to in a second, you can see the reviews, you know, that sort of thing. And then the pricing themselves and what they include. So you can see they do, you've got unlimited email accounts, for example. You've got antivirus protection. They do updates for you. They give you security protection, one-click installation. So some of these things are quite good. So it's $8 a month. Keep in mind, that's just to hook you in. It's actually $16 a month. So that gives you some idea of, you know, what a basic WordPress site might cost to host. There are other options though. There's Cloudways. Cloudways is, from memory, I think they're a European company, but they also offer hosting in Australia as well. And they use different server platforms. So you can say, I want to use Amazon Web Server, or I want to use, I don't know, DigitalOcean, for example. Then you can use different types of servers. Most people really don't necessarily care about things like that, but it's just another option. And you'll find that this is pretty much the same price as the previous one we were looking at. So it's going to cost you about, this will be in US dollars probably. It's going to cost you about $15 a month or so to get started. $12 a month there. So that's on DigitalOcean. You can choose your different server platforms, Google Cloud, if that's of interest to you, and your different locations, so where they are. So Vultr have data centers around the world, and you can choose your server to be in Sydney, for example, or maybe in Singapore. Okay, there's also Siteground, which is another popular one. I won't go into any more detail with these, but you might just want to look at these in your own time. And then sort of the Rolls Royce, for want of a better description, would be someone like WP Engine. Really good platform, really high security, high performance. They do a lot of things for you. And from memory, it's about $20 a month, give or take. And then there are platforms like GoDaddy. They also offer WordPress hosting. And it's once again, they're all pretty much the same starting price. GoDaddy and some of the other ones will offer a discount for the first month, but just keep in mind that's only for the first month. Okay, so there's some options for you. There's lots of other ones out there. There are just a few examples. Okay, so just going back there. So let's have a look at the back end of WordPress very, very quickly here. So look at the dashboard and the admin menu of WordPress. So I'm just going to go through this just in case you don't know what's where, and I'm just going to point out some things that are very important. So that's the dashboard, and you can change the layout of that. And to get to that, you would just go to your domain, and then WP-admin will take you to the dashboard. If you click on dashboard, that's what will show you. You can also visit your website from there by just hovering over the site address and clicking visit site. You can log out there too. This is where you would do your updates. So you can see I've got 2 updates to do. If I click on that, it tells me what version of WordPress I'm on and what, in this case, plugins need to be updated. And I can just select one of those or both of those and update them right there and then. And so it's fairly easy to do. So back to the dashboard, you've then got posts where all your blog posts are kept and where you create them. Your post categories, your media library and where you add new images or video, all your pages or where you add pages. So we'll just look at that. You can see we've got 2 pages and we can edit those pages from there. Comments, appearance is where you would manage your theme or add new themes. Plugins is where you add or manage your different plugins that you're using. Users, tools, you're not going to need to go here too often unless you're exporting. Settings, there's some things here that you might need to look at. So the first thing is really your permalinks. You need to make sure that these are set at, that would be the default, but we want to make sure that we're probably set on post name as the default permalink settings. So that would then be /page or /product, for example. So save that. That's the first thing you need to make sure of. Second thing is the general and the reading settings. So the general settings is where you're going to set the name of your site and maybe a tagline. The website address, you need to make sure that's correct. And also the users. And in this case, I'm going to choose Australian English. So I'm going to choose that. And the time zone, just set that for, in my case, for Brisbane or for Queensland. And there we go. And we can change the date settings, etc., etc. So you just need to save that. The other thing you might want to look at is there's writing. This is really how people post. And then there's reading. So this is where you set your home page and your blog posts. So if you click a static page, you can select a home page and you can also select where your posts are going to go. In this case, I don't have another page at the moment, but if I had a blog post page, I would set that there. And that's also where you can discourage search engines from indexing your site. Maybe if you're just doing some work on your site, I wouldn't recommend that though. Under appearance, you can go to your themes and add themes from the from WordPress itself. So you just click on Add New, and you can select a range of different themes. All of these, like I said, they're all going to be free. Some of them, in my opinion, are some of the best themes, including Astra. You've got WP Ocean, a whole bunch of different themes. Likewise with the plugins, if you want to, you can see which ones you've got installed or which need updating. You can also add new ones from Add a Plugin. And I would recommend if you go to the Popular tab on the left there, you can search, or you can just go to the Popular tab. Really, this is where most of the good ones are that you might need. So for SEO, for page builders, e-commerce, forms, security, such as WordFence, backups, such as Updraft, caching to improve the performance of your site. So these are all really powerful plugins that, you know, you should probably all have a version of one of those at least installed. So there is this thing about how, you know, how many should you have installed? You should try and limit how many you've got installed, but you also need that functionality. Just showing you there how you can also get to pages, and you can either quick edit, you know, to turn it into a draft, for example, or you can edit and start to edit the page. But normally if you've got a page builder, if you're not doing it through the default page builder, the block builder, then you'd probably edit your site that way. Okay. So let's have a look at plugins quickly. So like I said, plugins, what they do is they're like an app, and they extend the functionality of your website. So common plugins would be things like, I'm just going to go back to that video there. You know, e-commerce, security, performance, SEO, social media integration, all those sorts of things are sort of common plugins. And like I showed you before, there's a lot of plugins there that you can easily use. And these are all sort of free plugins, like I said before. So I'm showing you here from the WordPress website, but you'd probably look at this from within your own website, like the dashboard, like this here. So you just go to plugins and then select, the ones you want to manage or install, like I said before. So I've sort of gone through this already. So what I might do is just talk about some of the functionality that you might need. So let's have a look at that. So I've sort of touched briefly on security, but also performance. They're both really important. They're important because they're both taken into account as ranking factors. When you're trying to rank on a search engine, Google and Bing will take performance and security into account. So no matter how much advertising or SEO you're doing, it's still going to struggle to rank if your website's very, very slow or insecure. So you need to make sure you address those. So firstly, we touched on this, which is the Ssl certificate. You need to make sure you've got that installed. Some people go to the effort of showing trust seals like the one shown there, just to provide some level of confidence in the visitor. You also need to do things like I mentioned before. Make sure that your website's always updated and you're using good hosting platform, decent hosting configuration in terms of RAM and that sort of thing. But you also need to think about the website performance in terms of, you need to think about the images that you've got on your website and make sure they're not too large. So that's one of the reasons you're going to have poor performing website, might be because of just these images slowing everything down. It's not necessarily just that. It could be a range of other things like different types of files like JavaScript and that sort of thing. But if you just focus on the images, I think that's something that you can control quite easily. And you can use tools like Tiny JPEG or that sort of thing to compress images down to something that's more acceptable. And you can use a tool like GTmetrix to identify how fast or slow your website is. So, whether it's an A or an F, that's the score range they give you. F being for meaning fail. So it is worthwhile having a look, because you might just be surprised that, maybe how either fast or slow your website is, and it will have an impact overall. So I do recommend, having a check. Start with GTmetrix and just get a feel for the performance of your website. Then, some things about security. So you can and you should focus on WordPress security, and there's a number of reasons why. So there's lots of people trying to attack websites every single minute of the day. And these statistics here relate to WordPress websites. So 90,000 attacks a minute globally. And when they do try and attack something, it's usually a vulnerability that's been identified in a plugin. So one of those apps I spoke about. And this is one of the reasons why it's so important to keep them up to date, and also one that's widely used. So this is how WordPress websites are hacked, basically. So plugins is by far the most common way. Brute force is where they're just, trying to guess your password essentially over and over and over again until they get in. The core, that's WordPress itself. So there's some sort of vulnerability within WordPress itself. Themes, hosting, etc., etc. You can see a range of other, and these apply just as much to other website platforms, not as much, but they do also apply to other website platforms. Now, I don't want to turn you off WordPress. I just want to open your eyes to, the risks as well. In my opinion, it is the best website platform to be using. You've just got to take these things into account. So, just some of the things I spoke about already. I'll just go through these very quickly. So these are all the things you need to sort of take into account. Now, there are some plugins on WordPress, as an app that you should be using. So if you just search for security plugins, you'll see WordFence. It's a very, very popular one. It'll sort of protect your website quite strongly. There's quite a few other ones as well. I wouldn't necessarily recommend Jetpack, which is often installed as a default, but Security, I like iTheme Security. They're both very, very good. You can see, a lot of nearly 5-star reviews, 4.5, and over 1 million installations. And what that's going to do is just harden your site and make it less difficult for people to hack your site. Now, I'm just answering Sharon's question. Sorry, Sharon, if you asked that before, I didn't see it until then. If I have a website and email hosting on Wix and everything is working well, is it worth me changing? I don't think so, unless you need some special type of functionality that Wix can't provide. That would be my, if it's not broken and it's working well, as you say, then I wouldn't change it just for technology's sake, really. It would be the only answer there. Unless, like I say, there is some, you might have to integrate your website with something, and I don't know what that something is, that Wix can't do very easily. So that would be the only other thing. The only other reason you might want to change from a platform that you think is working well is if you're just not comfortable managing it or looking after it. I'm not saying WordPress would be, any different. You need to still do the same, but no. But my gut feeling would say no. I wouldn't change anything if it's working well for you. If it's not ranking, and you're not getting visibility, that's a different thing. That's about more, about doing search engine optimization or email marketing or advertising, whatever you might need to do. But yeah, that would be my advice. I hope that answered your question. Okay, so that's security. And like I said, I don't want to scare you away, but I do want to make you aware of those sorts of things. Now, same with performance. Now, this is where I think WordPress has a bit of a strength over some of the other platforms, because if you are struggling with performance on some of the other platforms, it is sometimes quite difficult to fix unless you know a coder that can do a bit of coding, that sort of thing for you. It's not so much coding, but I'm just going to use that term. With WordPress, you can actually get a plugin, a caching plugin, if you like, that can help fix some of those problems. So let me just get this going. So same sort of thing, you just go to the plugins page, you search for cache, and a whole bunch of options will come up. So Lightspeed cache is particularly good. I like WP fastest cache as well. And all you do is you just install these. And in most cases, you just install it. You don't need to do anything necessarily. Sometimes it would be ideal to maybe tweak a few things, but this should improve your performance overall. And just when I say that, improve your performance, this is about improving the experience for your visitors. So that's what I would recommend in terms of just trying to improve the performance of your website. Okay, so if there's any other questions, like I said, just feel free just to throw one into chat, and I'll answer that for you along the way. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep going. So themes and page builders. So what the themes do is they provide the structure to your website. To some degree, the look and feel, but you can change the look and feel of the theme. You can change the colors, the fonts, the layout, the images, of course, all those sorts of things. It's really just the structure. Having said that, though, you get different types of themes. So you get sort of generic themes you can use for any sort of thing. Sometimes people build industry-specific themes, like one for real estate websites or one for industrial type businesses. And others are all in one. So you buy the theme, and then they have these like pre-built sort of templates for different industry types. So you might have a cafe, and you can install the cafe layout, if you like. Now, a lot of these themes are free. Some of the all-in-one type ones are usually more premium type themes, and there's sort of some in between. So they're free, but if you want certain other features, you have to pay. So just quickly show you this. You just go to themes, or you can do this from your WordPress website. And I'm just going to quickly, I won't show you all of this screenshot here, but just going to fast forward here. You can see here. So I'm just going to pause this. Whoops. I'm just going to pause that there. So Astra, actually, Astra is one of the best themes, in my opinion, that you can use for a website. And it's free to start on just by downloading it from WordPress. Now, having said that, you might think, well, is there anything else out there? You can go to sites like ThemeForest, which is this particular one here, and they offer a range of premium themes. Now, this just happens to be an Australian business, but it's a global type website, and you can choose the type of theme that you want, whether it's an e-commerce one or just a multi-purpose one. And here you'll see some of the best-selling themes, most popular themes. So Avada, and you can see the price, $60, not too bad. That would be for 1 year updates and support. So yeah, you might want to have a look at some of those. Flatsum, that's a really good e-commerce one. And then there's also a very popular one is Divi, which is this theme here. Just going to show you that. So it's by Elegant Themes, and it's one of those sort of all-in-one themes that comes with a page builder. Very, very popular. And you can use it for all different types. So it comes with a page builder, quite easy to use. I'm just going to flick forward there a bit. You can see here, so with the coffee shop layout, for example, comes with all the pages you might need. You download that, and then you've got a sort of a ready-made website. You just need to customize it to suit your particular brand. Add your logo, maybe some custom images, your menu, etc. So there's some of the different types of themes that are available. And as you can see, not particularly expensive at all. So page builders are another thing. So there's lots of different page builders. Elementor is one of the popular ones. The Divi builder for the Divi theme is very popular too. I'll just show you how it works. It's quite easy. As you can see, as you hover over a section, you can just click on the pencil and edit that particular section, or just drag a new part in like this. I can just choose a section here. What do I want to add? I don't know. You can see lots of different things that you can add. So these, you just literally drag and drop them across to your page. Now this is pre-recorded, so it seems particularly slow now that I watch it in hindsight, but anyway. So I'm just going to forward that on a bit there. So you can also get pre-built templates using Elementor, whole pages, and you can just download those. And not all of them, some of them you can see are pro versions. You need the pro account, but otherwise you just use the free versions. You can see there's a few at the top there that are all free, and you can then start building your own site using Elementor. Okay, so I think this is where I was going to show you how it actually works. So you just drag a section onto the page. You can see if I click on the pencil, when I hover over any of those, I can edit them, or I go down to a section here. I might want to add a little section in here, maybe a headline. And you can see it's very simple, just like a word processor. Choose what type of heading it is, H1, H2, etc. Whether it's center aligned, what font you're using, all those sorts of things. So that's the page builder, that's Elementor, but they're all pretty much of a muchness. You can change like this one here and duplicate that if I want. And then maybe just change the icon to something else. Very easy to do. Okay, so that's the page builder. Now, let's talk about e-commerce. So as default, WordPress doesn't come with e-commerce built into it, but they do have their own platform, Woocommerce, which is owned by WordPress. Excuse me. It is a very good platform to use for WordPress, in my opinion, but it's not the only platform you can use. There are different options available, but Woocommerce is it's a plugin, so you need to install it from your backend, the admin dashboard. Great thing about Woocommerce is you can use it for any type of product. It really doesn't matter if it's a virtual product, like a downloadable product, whether it's a physical product, you know, whether you've got variations, multiple variations, or just a single version. Even just for a single product, it's fine. It's also good for you know, businesses that also might have retail and wholesale, and maybe potentially a marketplace. So Woocommerce is quite flexible in that regard. So I'm just taking you to the Woocommerce website here quickly. You might want to visit this in your own time because there's a lot of information on here. Now, Woocommerce is free, but if you want any of the extensions, you can either look for like an add-on to Woocommerce. You might want to either look on WordPress for that, for a free version, or Woocommerce have their own extensions like these ones here that in most cases you have to pay for. They're about $79 a year or something like that. There's information by different industry types. Some of those extensions are very useful in terms of just bundling, you know, or different options that you can offer your customers. So a very powerful tool. Comes with all your payment types, including Woocommerce Payments. It integrates with virtually everything out there, you know, whether it's email or whether it's marketing or, you know, shipping. So yes, Woocommerce is definitely the platform I would recommend if you're using a WordPress website. Okay, so very, very flexible. I'm just going to forward on a little bit here. Comes with a range of different themes as well, Woocommerce, but most themes are Woocommerce compatible and some themes are specifically designed for Woocommerce. So in most cases, I wouldn't use a Woocommerce theme. I would use, not their own themes, I would use a third-party theme, even a free one, as opposed to one of their own themes. So some of the extensions here, you can see marketing extensions and a range of other ones that you can use. Okay, so that's e-commerce. In terms of the themes, so I was just talking about there. So like I said, there's a number of themes you can use. This is just a list I got off the internet, but I sort of agree with it. Astra is a free theme. Woocommerce is free. You put them both together, they work really well together. In fact, most of these ones are free. Neve is another free theme. Ocean WP is another free theme. So there's a lot of, and some of them come with free starter templates. But there's also some of those premium ones I talked about before. What they'll do is have more bells and whistles, basically, like Divi. They'll offer more features and functionality. So yeah, depending on what you want to do. Okay, so that's some of the themes you might want to use with WooCommerce. There are other ones available though, like for example, if you're just purely a downloadable product, like a virtual product, you could use something like Easy Digital Downloads. It's another e-commerce platform for downloadable products. You can use Bigcommerce. Bigcommerce is a plugin, but you'd need a Bigcommerce website. So it's sort of, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense. Equid is a little app that you can use to run your store on different platforms, including Facebook and including WordPress websites and other things like that. So it's not the only platform by any means. Some of the extensions I was talking about. So I'm just going to flick through this because I'm running a little bit behind here. So some of these are really, really useful depending on your particular product that you have, because some of these are just available anyway. Firstly, there's Woocommerce Payments. It's something I would recommend you use if you're using, if you do have an e-commerce WooCommerce store. It's free and it's quite flexible, offers very good rates, etc. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend necessarily Jetpack. This is just some of the ones that they do. So customizing your products, so where they can add, they can book things, for example, like product add-ons. They might want to book extra things as part of their product offering. Composite products, where they can make the product from different components. In this particular case, it's a skateboard, but that might also apply to your particular product as well. So there are a lot of other different add-ons that you can use. Google Listings is very useful if you want to list your products on Google Shopping, for example. Automate Woo is fairly useful if you want to do some of that automated email marketing. So, when people purchase something, inform them about shipping, delivery, to thank them, all these sorts of things. So I would recommend having a look at that. Okay, so that's WooCommerce. So I'm just going to now briefly talk about some of the other things that you might want to consider. Now I'm going to flick through these quite quickly. So email marketing, you should be doing email marketing no matter what the platform. Why would you do that? And it's because of this statistic here. It's really the highest return on your investment of all of your marketing channels, potentially, if you do it right. So, you're going to need an email marketing platform, and like Mailchimp or MailerLite or GetResponse or ActiveCampaign, something like that. And then you'll need to go to WordPress, to the plugins, and find that particular plugin that you need for that platform. So in this case, I'm just showing you what's available under email marketing. You would just search for that, and you can see all the different available platforms. Sendinblue, MailPoet, all of them will integrate with WordPress. So that's one of the things. And then you would then simply integrate the two using an API or something. Fairly easy to set up. HubSpot, etc. So here's some of the platforms. I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but MailerLite is a really good sort of platform if you want to get started. It's a really good free platform that includes all the features that you might need to get started. So Mailchimp is another good free platform. It doesn't necessarily include all of the features you might want at the beginning. Sendinblue is pretty good too. Has this little CRM built into it. So does Mailchimp, by the way. GetResponse and ActiveCampaign are at the other end of the scale, more fully functional and premium. So just looking at some of the free platforms here, some of them cost. Not free platforms, the free plan. In other words, what do you need to get to start paying? And as you can see with Mailchimp and MailerLite, 2,000 or 1,000 subscribers basically before you need to start paying. So quite good plans there. Klaviyo is particularly good as well. I like that one. Omnisend's pretty good. And in most cases, what you would do, like I said before, you would go to your email marketing platform. They might suggest that you download the plugin for WooCommerce or WordPress, and then you would then copy that API key and connect your WooCommerce store. So quite straightforward to do. And then it's about setting up some automated workflows like this one suggests here, or setting up your first campaign. So that might be setting up a welcome series of emails when people sign up to your email list, or having a abandoned cart. They're the two that you should start with. So, maybe if you haven't done that, go and set up an email marketing platform, get the plugin for that, integrate the two, and set up those two campaigns. Secondly, there's social media marketing. So this is really those social signals, the feed, the likes, the shares, the follows, all those sorts of things. Being able to post, if you're blogging, from your blog straight onto your social media channels, or having a feed of Instagram, for example, on your website. These are all, or a shop on Facebook and Instagram, synchronized with your shop on WooCommerce. These are all things that you can do relatively straightforwardly with, in not all cases, but in most cases, with the help of a plugin. So I might not go into too much detail here, but I'm just going to show you, if you just search for Facebook plugins, for example, you'll see a whole bunch of different plugins available, whether it's for WooCommerce, a chat plugin, just for cross-posting, between your blog post and other things, social media posts, post feed, for example. So lots of options there that you might want to consider. I also look for product feed, because, if you want to synchronize your products, if you do have an e-commerce store between WordPress and, say, Facebook, or WordPress and Google, then you're going to need, probably, depending on the number of products, if you've got a lot of products, you're going to need a feed. And that feed synchronizes the two-way information between those two platforms and your website. So I just searched for product feed here, and you can see there's one for Product Feed Pro for WooCommerce, and you can use that for Google Shopping as well as Facebook. And, there's a few other ones there that you might want to also consider. Now, just on this, if you are considering doing this, you would need a Google Merchant Center account, and you would need a Facebook Commerce Manager set up as well. Some other social media ones. So there's Social Snap and others like this, where they're basically just doing this, cross-posting. So a range of different things it can do. Also the like and share and follow buttons. So show social auto poster. So when you're doing a blog post, you can automatically post to your social media channels, for example. So there's lots of different ones like this that you might want to consider. Social sharing, social follows on your website, analytics, etc. And all those sorts of things. And then there's feed. So you might want to consider a feed. There's Smashballoon is one of those. You can do an Instagram feed or some other feed. And, a lot of people will have that at the bottom of their homepage, for example. And, just something you might want to consider, even though this is nothing to do with WordPress necessarily, but something like Buffer or one of those scheduling tools. And you can also get ones that actually will, so you can post to, Facebook, Instagram, Google My Business, and in some cases, WordPress as well. So you might want to consider one that does WordPress as a digital channel. Okay, now we're just going to almost finish up, not quite here, but we're just going to talk about WordPress and SEO. It's one of WordPress's strengths, really, is its ability to rank well. And two ways you can rank, really. One is through the pages and products, if you like, and the other is through blog posts. So there's probably three ways there: pages, products, blog posts. Blog posts are an excellent way to rank. Now, just once again, I'm just going to show you how to, I would recommend on WordPress to maybe use an SEO plugin. SEO plugin is just going to guide you on what you need to do to optimize each page. There's a lot of good ones. Yoast is very popular. You can see 5 million plus installations, but any of those top 4 there, I would recommend. Any of those 4, they're all very, very good. Probably Rank Math SEO Press, and Yoast. And you install this, and by page, on a per page basis, it's going to show you, in this case with Yoast, using a traffic light system, what you need to optimize your page. And the first step in doing that, of course, is identifying what each page, what the keyword for each page. You need to identify that first, and then start to optimize your page for using Yoast or any of those other plugins. So these are some of the things you need to think about when you're optimizing your site, your WordPress site. So site structure, really this just talks about setting your site up properly in terms of navigation, but also silos, you know, so product categories or blog categories or page categories, for example. And based on that, you need to identify keyword phrases that you need to optimize your page around. Each page would have a unique keyword phrase. We're talking like a long tail keyword, so 3 to 5 word phrase ideally. And then you start to optimize the page. Now, we'll quickly show you how to do that in a second. Talked about security and performance a few times already. Links on each page, you're ideally going to have some external links and some internal links. So external links, both coming in and going out really to other sites. Now it takes a bit of guts to have a link, external link, but you do want external links coming in. That's very important. That's what we call backlinks. And also internal links within pages. So from the home page to product categories, for example, or from the product categories to different products, from products to products, upsells and cross-sells. And then you need to think about your local presence, you know, and that's really local business directories and citations, Google My Business, all of these sorts of things. So now I had a feeling that this wasn't working, and I hope it is going to work, but I'm just going to show you how to optimize a product. And it doesn't matter if it's product or a product category or a home page or a page, it's still the same principles apply. So this is it's a hooded jacket. You can see I've got some decent images there, some size information, and some bullet point descriptions. So quite a bit of information really. But I'm just going to show you how you would optimize. So it doesn't matter if there's none or some. Okay, so that's the product I'm going to optimize. So the first thing I want to do is edit the product. Then once you're in here, you want to really identify what the keyword is that you want to rank for this product. And ideally a 3 to 5 word phrase would be ideal. So now I'm running out of time here, but if you can bear with me, there's also a product short description is what I'm showing you there that you also need to make sure you use. But it doesn't matter if this is a page or a product. So I've gone off and I've done some research and I've decided what the keyword is for this particular product. Products are easy because it's usually got the product name in there. And it's very simple. I've called it camouflage hooded jacket for men instead of just hooded jacket. Now, that's the first place I need to put it is the title. The second place I need to put it is in the URL. So I change that URL, keeping in mind that I've now changed the URL. So that old page no longer exists. So you need to have a redirection in place to make sure you're redirecting the old page to the new page. Now, what I'm going to do is just go away and write a bit of a description here. Firstly, I'm going to put a heading in there. I'm going to call that heading 1. Then I'm going to go down here, go away and get some content. So write some, you know, a nice conversational English description of the product. Hopefully, here I go. So I'm just going to paste that in there. And ideally, you want enough content. Now, I don't have enough content here, but really enough content to at least have the keyword in there twice. So I've got it in there. I could have for men in there, but I've decided camouflage hooded jackets, my primary keyword. There's another one there, camouflage hooded jacket. I'm just going to bolden those just to tell search engines that that's important. I'm going to keep the rest of the bullet points there. It's not too bad, that information. Can delete stuff that's not really relevant anymore. Okay, now, then we need to make sure it's in the right product category. And then I'm just going to copy that keyword, copy, just in case I didn't have it. I'm going to go down to the images now. Sorry, I've changed my mind again. Just going to go down to, firstly, I'm going to go to Yoast. I'm going to put it in this section here. It says focus keyword, focus key phrase. So I'm going to put that in there. And it gives me a little amber smiley face. Readability is good. SEO is not so good. So I've decided to change my mind again. I've just changed it to camouflage through the jacket. And now I can also see what my meta title or meta description is, and I can edit that here if I wanted to. So if I want that to be more salesy, I might edit that there. I might put afterpay available or free shipping Australia-wide, something like that. And that's what your meta title allows you to do. You can easily change what's on there. You can review your SEO analysis here, and you need to just get all the amber to green, all the red to amber, and then to green. Basically, get them all green, or as many of them as you can. So the first place I would start is by going to all the images and putting the meta of, sorry, I'm just going to copy this and put it in that short description down the bottom. Remember, I showed you that before. So I'm just going to paste that in there. Just put a heading in there. Sorry about this. Okay, so Woocommerce has two descriptions. I just wanted to, you can see now one of those, it just says it's too long now. So I'm just going to abbreviate that a bit. Okay, it's probably a bit short, but that's okay. So if I go up there now, you'll see that one of those amber has turned green. And it's just a process of doing that, essentially. I'd go and put all the alt image tags into each of those images now, and that's what I'm doing here. Just want to show you that, and then I'm almost finished. So if you click on any image, you can edit that, and it will say at the top, what's the alternative text? It's not quite what I wanted there, so I'm just going to paste that in there. I didn't quite change that, but I think I misread it. It should say camouflage hooded method. Anyway, so I would have changed that to include that keyword. In this case, I was misreading that word. And you do it for every single image. In a way, that's very, very quick thumbnail sketch of how you optimize a page using Yoast. I would have gone into a bit more detail if I wasn't running so late. Now, you might want to just review the back end of WordPress and see what Google plugins there are. There's Sales Kit by Google. I do recommend that. There's also Google listings as well. There's product feeds, all sorts of different ones that you might want to use, but only if you think you need it. Don't, like I said, you want to try and limit the number of plugins you have on WordPress. Just very, very quickly, you do need to maybe consider doing blog posts on WordPress. They do rank very, very well, particularly if you're trying to answer a question or a solution, provide a solution to a customer, and particularly where there's a list involved. And you'll notice that if you ever search for some topics, you'll see lists of 25 best this, 20 top this, 10 ways to improve this, and because they really do work. or if you have a question in the title, how to solve this problem, that will help you rank. So just consider that. They do really rank. And I do show an example here of a particular, so if you search best handbag, you'll come back with a bunch of different responses. Every result on this page is actually a blog post. So they do rank very, very well. Just very, very quickly, other things you might want to consider would be forms. There's lots of forms plugins on WordPress itself, and you can just investigate those. There's live chat, social share. I sort of mentioned those already. Analytics. So some of them just provide a dashboard version of Google Analytics. Insert headers and footers. Sometimes that's easy if you want to insert some sort of script like Google Analytics script or something like that. Okay, so that's basically it for me. Thank you very much. Sorry, I took a little bit longer than I imagined. If you do have any questions, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, you can just shoot me an email there, ricky@businessstation.com.au. There's also a link there with some of the things I talked about today in there. I'm not sure exactly. I haven't visited that folder for a little while, so you might just need to copy that link, unfortunately, or type that link in for some additional information. So I do thank you for your time, and yeah, good luck with your WordPress journey if that's where you decide to go. If something wasn't clear today and you want some clarification, just send me an email and I'll try my best to clarify that for you. Or if you just have a question about WordPress or websites or anything else, be happy to help. Okay, so I'm going to leave you just with this information here. So I'm not sure if you're all part of the Digital Solutions program, but if you're not, that's one of the reasons I'm delivering this presentation today. So you might want to consider investigating this for your business. 7 hours of mentorship for $44. If you're interested, you can go to that link there to find out more information. And there's the eligibility requirements there, basically an ABN, less than 20 full-time staff, and in one of those 3 locations. Okay, thank you very much for your time. Bye, everyone. I'm just going to stop sharing now as well.